Milan, the city of style and sophistication, where ambition thrives and dreams are stitched into every fabric. Its cobblestone streets tell the stories of triumph and heartbreak, much like the man at its center, Ethan Lawrence. Behind his polished exterior lies a man whose trust was shattered, leaving him to navigate success alone in a world that values power over emotion. Its cobblestone streets and gleaming storefronts are home to some of the world's most renowned fashion houses, yet beneath the glamour lies a ruthless industry where power and reputation are everything. At the heart of this world stands Ethan Lawrence, a 36-year-old CEO who has built an empire spanning continents. As the head of Lawrence Holdings, Ethan is celebrated for his sharp business acumen and unparalleled vision in the luxury fashion industry. Handsome, confident, and commanding, he is the embodiment of success, but behind his polished exterior lies a man hardened by betrayal. Years ago, Ethan's life took a drastic turn when his ex-wife, Sophia Vane, shattered his trust. Once a partner in both life and ambition, Sophia sold confidential company secrets to Victor Renard, the CEO of Renard Designs and Ethan's fiercest competitor. The betrayal not only ended their marriage but also sent shockwaves through the industry. Media outlets feasted on the scandal, and Ethan's reputation, once untouchable, became a subject of public scrutiny. Now, with his company still grappling with the fallout, Ethan faces mounting pressure to restore the faith of investors and clients alike. But how far will he go to regain control over his narrative and secure the future of Lawrence Holdings? While Lawrence Holdings continued to struggle with the fallout from Ethan's divorce, the board of directors grew increasingly restless. In an emergency meeting held at the company's gleaming headquarters in the heart of Milan, the tension was palpable. Richard Bellamy, the largest shareholder and a formidable voice on the board, spoke first, his tone sharp. "Ethan, your divorce has ignited a media frenzy and severely damaged the company's image. Renard Designs is using this to undermine us. We need a swift solution." Ethan sat at the head of the table, his icy gaze sweeping over the room. Leaning back in his chair, he responded with calm precision, though his voice cut like a blade. "What exactly are you suggesting, Richard? I don't deal in half measures." Richard took a measured breath before delivering his verdict. "We need you to remarry Ethan, a fresh image, a positive narrative to rebuild trust among clients and investors, and this time, there is no room for mistakes." The room fell into a heavy silence. A wave of fury surged through Ethan, but he knew personal feelings had no place in this ruthless world. Richard's tone grew firmer. "You have 6 months, otherwise we'll have to consider finding a new CEO." Ethan let out a cold chuckle, one that didn't reach his eyes. 6 months, a short deadline to find the perfect wife and craft a convincing marriage that could withstand the scrutiny of the media. But if there was one thing Ethan wasn't, it was a man who backed down. "Fine," he replied, his voice razor sharp, though his mind churned with frustration. "If you want a wife, I'll find one, but it'll be on my terms." Behind his cold tone, a flicker of doubt lingered. Could he truly turn something so personal into another calculated transaction? As the meeting adjourned, Ethan returned to his office, gazing at the glittering skyline of Milan. He poured himself a glass of wine, contemplating the board's ultimatum. To him, love and marriage had always been meaningless concepts. This time, it would be nothing more than a calculated transaction, and he would ensure it was executed to perfection. In a small corner of Milan, Kayla Mendez, 26, sat quietly in her design studio, her hands moving tirelessly across the blank pages. Kayla was a passionate designer, dreaming of revolutionizing the fashion world with bold, sustainable collections. But her dreams seemed to drift further out of reach with each passing day. Her family was drowning in medical bills as her mother battled a serious illness. Kayla had sacrificed nearly everything, from her savings to her health, to care for her mother. Her tiny studio, once a haven for her creative ambitions, had become a refuge from the harsh reality of life. Kayla never imagined her path would cross with the world of luxury conglomerates like Lawrence Holdings, until an unusual opportunity presented itself. At a grand fashion gala, Kayla was invited to showcase a small but striking design that had caught attention. Surrounded by dazzling lights and extravagant outfits, she felt like an outsider in the glamorous crowd. That's when she met Ethan Lawrence, the man all of Milan knew as the Ice King of fashion. Ethan, with his sharp gaze and commanding presence, immediately noticed something unique about Kayla. She wasn't like the women around him. Uninterested in fame, undistracted by wealth, she was someone he could control, the perfect candidate for his plan. When Ethan proposed a contract marriage, Kayla was stunned. "I'm not for sale," she replied, her voice steady with pride. Ethan smirked and slid a file across the table. "I'm not buying you, Kayla. I'm offering you a solution." Inside the file was a promise to cover her mother's medical expenses entirely, along with the chance to launch her own fashion brand. It was an offer too big to ignore. Kayla hesitated, knowing this decision could change her life forever. But was she willing to trade her freedom to enter a contract marriage? 3 days later, Kayla returned to Ethan's office. Her heart pounded as she held the pen, her mind racing with doubts and fears. But as she thought of her mother's fragile smile, she steadied her trembling hands and signed her name. In that moment, she knew her life would change forever, though she wasn't sure if it was for better or worse. Kayla Mendez's new life began with a sense of unease. She moved into Ethan Lawrence's luxurious mansion, where everything was immaculate to the point of making her feel like an intruder. Ball gowns, high heels, and the constant flash of cameras were now a regular part of her daily routine. On the surface, Ethan and Kayla appeared to be the perfect couple. They held hands at grand parties, smiled for the cameras, and projected a flawless love story. The media and public were enamored with their image, but behind the closed doors of the mansion, their relationship was cold and distant. Ethan buried himself in work, his meetings stretching late into the night. Meanwhile, Kayla spent her days in the design studio, striving to rediscover her creative passion amid the doubts and whispers from the fashion world. But slowly, genuine moments of connection began to emerge. One evening, after returning from an event, they found themselves sitting together by the fireplace. The atmosphere felt softer, less guarded. Holding a glass of wine, Ethan asked unexpectedly, "How do you feel about being here?" Kayla hesitated before answering. "I don't belong in this world," Kayla said, her voice trembling with vulnerability. "I'm just a dreamer from a tiny studio, trying to make sense of all this." For the first time, Ethan didn't argue, he simply listened, something he rarely did for anyone. They talked, more than they ever had before. Kayla opened up about the pressures she faced, the judgmental stares, the whispers from high society dismissing her as merely a contract wife. Ethan remained quiet, his gaze softening. He began to realize Kayla was far stronger than he had assumed. Their conversations became more frequent. Ethan shared his pain, speaking of the betrayal by Sophia, his ex-wife, and how it had turned him into a man who no longer believed in love. Kayla responded with a gentle smile. "Not everyone is like her, Ethan." Evenings like these became a routine. Kayla started to see that beneath Ethan's icy exterior was a man who had once loved and hoped, but had been deeply hurt. And Ethan began to realize that Kayla wasn't just another piece in his calculated plan. She was the one person who brought authenticity and peace into his carefully controlled life. The relationship between Ethan Lawrence and Kayla Mendez was slowly evolving. Though still distant, the genuine moments they shared had started to bridge the gap. But their fragile peace was soon shattered when a dark secret came to light. One morning, Ethan received a call from Marcus Hale, his trusted financial advisor. Marcus's voice was tense. "Ethan, we have a major problem. A video of your marriage contract has just been leaked." Ethan gripped the phone, a mix of anger and panic coursing through him. The video was undeniable evidence, a detailed contract outlining the terms of their arranged marriage, including their responsibilities and benefits. There was no doubt in Ethan's mind that Sophia Vane, his ex-wife, was behind the leak, working alongside Victor Renard to tarnish. Within hours, the media erupted with headlines and accusations. Ethan was condemned for exploiting marriage to maintain his power, while Kayla was mocked as a puppet in his scheme. Lawrence Holdings stock plummeted, and the board of directors called for an emergency meeting. The tension in the boardroom was palpable. Richard Bellamy, the head of the board, addressed Ethan with a stern expression. "Ethan, this is unacceptable. A CEO cannot allow the company to be tainted by such a scandal. If you can't provide an adequate solution, we'll have to consider replacing you." Kayla, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, listened intently. She knew that if she didn't act, Ethan would lose everything. Summoning her courage, she stood up and stepped forward. "The contract we signed may have been real," Kayla said, her voice shaking with both fear and determination. "But I'm here not because of that contract. I'm here because I believe in him. Ethan isn't just a CEO to me. He's a man who's fought for everything he's built, and I won't let anyone take that away from him." Her words silenced the room. The board members exchanged glances, and a few began nodding in agreement. Ethan looked at Kayla, gratitude and astonishment reflecting in his eyes. After the meeting, Ethan realized that Kayla was no longer just a contractual wife. She had become someone indispensable in his life, a partner who stood by him even when everything seemed to fall apart. After Kayla Mendez bravely stood up for Ethan Lawrence in front of the board, the situation began to shift. While the immediate crisis was averted, both Ethan and Kayla knew that Sophia Vane and Victor Renard were still plotting in the shadows, waiting for their chance to strike again. One evening, as Kayla pored over financial documents in her study, she stumbled upon an unusual transaction routed through a Swiss shell company. She immediately called Ethan and Marcus Hale, and together they dug deeper. After hours of analysis, they uncovered undeniable evidence. Victor Renard had been bribing key shareholders to force Ethan out, while planning a massive stock sell-off to manipulate the market. The following day, Ethan confronted the board with the evidence. He presented emails, financial transactions, and even recorded conversations between Victor and Sophia. The room was stunned into silence. Sophia stood pale and speechless, while Victor was promptly arrested for fraud and insider trading. With the truth revealed, the shareholders rallied behind Ethan. Their confidence in him was fully restored. Lawrence Holdings not only survived the crisis, but also emerged stronger than ever, thanks to the strategic reforms Ethan implemented with Kayla's invaluable support. A few months later, as the storm settled, Ethan realized that his relationship with Kayla was no longer bound by a contract. It was built on trust, perseverance, and genuine love. One crisp autumn afternoon in the garden of their mansion, Ethan planned a special surprise. He led Kayla to a picturesque hill where the golden hues of sunset bathed everything in warmth. Suddenly, Ethan knelt down, holding a small velvet box. "Kayla," he began, his voice deep and filled with emotion. "The first time we married, it was just a contract. But this time, I'm asking you with all my heart, will you marry me? Not out of obligation, but out of true love." Kayla stared at him, tears glistening in her eyes. Without hesitation, she smiled and nodded. "Yes, Ethan." Ethan gently slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his embrace. In that moment, they knew that nothing could ever come between them again. The wedding of Kayla Mendez and Ethan Lawrence was a truly special event, both intimate and deeply romantic. They chose to hold the ceremony at a classic villa in the countryside of Florence, surrounded by fields of lavender, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun. Kayla walked down the aisle in a wedding gown she had designed herself. The dress combined timeless elegance with a modern touch, crafted from eco-friendly materials that reflected her passion for sustainable fashion. Delicate lace details and a flowing train made her look like a goddess bathed in golden light. Ethan stood at the end of the aisle in a perfectly tailored black suit, his eyes fixed on Kayla. In that moment, he realized his life was finally complete. She was the missing piece he had been searching for. The ceremony took place under the twilight sky, surrounded by close friends and family. Rain Lawrence, Ethan's younger sister, served as the maid of honor and couldn't contain her emotions, overjoyed to see her brother find true happiness. Marcus Hale, Ethan's best friend, officiated the ceremony with a warm and proud voice. "Today, we're not just witnessing a wedding. We're celebrating a love that has proven it can overcome any challenge." As Ethan slid the ring onto Kayla's finger, he whispered, "I once thought love was a gamble, but now I know it's the most valuable thing I've ever found." Kayla, her eyes glistening with tears, replied softly, "You've shown me that I deserve a love as real as this." After their vows, they shared their first kiss as husband and wife amidst cheers and happy tears from everyone present. That evening, they danced beneath thousands of twinkling lights, the melodies of classical music filling the air. Guests joined in the celebration, creating memories in a night that no one would ever forget. In Ethan's arms, Kayla felt a sense of safety and love she never imagined she would find. After all the schemes and challenges, the lives of Ethan Lawrence and Kayla Mendez finally settled into a peaceful rhythm. In Milan, the city of fashion and love, they learned to cherish the simple moments together. With Ethan's unwavering support, Kayla launched her own sustainable fashion brand, KM Studio, focusing on unique, eco-friendly designs. Her collections quickly gained recognition, transforming Kayla from an unknown designer into a rising star in the industry. Together, Ethan and Kayla also established the Lawrence Foundation, a charitable organization dedicated to helping young designers from underprivileged backgrounds. The foundation provided not only financial aid, but also opportunities for mentorship and training with top industry experts. One serene morning in Milan, Ethan and Kayla strolled hand in hand down the cobblestone streets, blending in with other couples. There were no more contracts, no more barriers. Between them now was only love and unshakable trust. Kayla spoke softly, her voice carried by the crisp morning breeze. "We've been through so much, Ethan." Ethan stopped, his gaze tender as he looked at her. "I've never regretted signing that contract, Kayla," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. "Because without it, I wouldn't have found you, the one who gave my life meaning beyond business, beyond power." They shared a kiss under the soft morning sunlight, the distant sound of church bells blessing their union. In that moment, they knew this was only the beginning of a new life, one free of obligations, filled only with love.